Welcome to Hunger Code. This channel exists to answer the questions the food industry never wanted you to ask, what it knows about your brain, and decided never to tell you. Let's talk about the real case of a 7-year-old boy in Brooklyn in the 90s. The largest fast food chain in the world had a location a block and a half from his house. At first, it was a family thing. Those nights when his dad would come home with bags and boxes and everyone would dig in together. A special occasion kind of thing. It didn't take long to become routine or a ritual. Then something he hid. Crumpled wrappers under his bed. Double meals on the subway before getting home. His stomach full but the craving still intact. He didn't understand what was happening to him. You probably recognize that pattern. The question that boy couldn't answer is the same one you've probably asked yourself at some point. Why with this specific food do you lose control and not with others? Why does the craving show up even right after you've eaten? Why can you hold yourself together in so many other areas of your life, but in front of a bag or a box that all disappears? It's not weakness. It's not lack of willpower. It's not because you don't care about your health. It's because something is happening inside your brain that is completely beyond the reach of your conscious decision, a mechanism that was triggered and that you never authorized. This video is going to show you exactly what that mechanism is, and who already knew it existed before you did. To understand what's happening inside you, we need to go back long before fast food, long before ultra-processed foods. We need to go back to a time when finding food was a matter of survival. Your brain was built over millions of years for one very simple mission: keep you alive. And in a time when food was scarce and unpredictable, the smartest system evolution could install was this one. When you find something rich in energy, eat. Eat fast. Eat as much as you can, because you don't know when you'll find it again. That system works through a reward circuit. When you consume something dense in sugar, fat, or salt, your brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter of pleasure and motivation. This isn't a metaphor, it's chemistry. Dopamine doesn't just say, "This is good." It says, "Do that again." It records the behavior, it creates the urge to repeat. And nature installed a counterweight in that system. After a certain point, the satiety signal arrives. The pleasure fades. The body says stop, with a piece of fruit, with a root vegetable, with anything that existed in the environment that brain evolved in. The system works exactly as it should. The problem is, you don't live in that environment. Ultra-processed foods were not created by nature. They were designed in laboratories by scientists whose job was one thing and one thing only: figure out how to activate your reward system with an intensity no natural food can match. And eliminate the stopping point. The sugar was calibrated to hit the exact level of sweetness that maximizes pleasure without causing disgust. The fat was textured to create a mouthfeel that your brain registers as a reward before you even realize you're eating. The sodium content was engineered to amplify all of that and block any bitterness that might interrupt the cycle. And the speed. That's the detail that changes everything. Natural foods take time to be processed. The satiety signal has time to arrive. With ultra-processed foods, absorption is so fast that the dopamine peak happens before any of your brain's control mechanisms can react. The primitive system wins before the rational one ever gets a chance. It's not lack of willpower. It's a matter of timing. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for conscious decisions, self-control, long-term judgment, simply isn't fast enough. Not because you're weak, because it was never built to compete with engineering at this level. And there's one more detail that makes it worse. The harder you try to resist, the more activated the primitive system becomes. Deprivation doesn't weaken the urge, it intensifies it. The brain treats restriction as a threat, and when you finally give in, the reward cycle hits even harder than it would have without the resistance. That's why diets fail, not because people give up, but because the mechanism they're trying to beat with willpower is the same mechanism evolution used to guarantee the survival of the species. You don't defeat millions of years of neurological programming with determination. That boy from Brooklyn had no way of knowing this. You had no way of knowing this. But there are people who knew it very well. In the 1990s, the largest tobacco company in the world was in crisis. Decades of hidden internal studies were coming to light. The world was discovering that the company had known from the very beginning that cigarettes created chemical dependency, and that it chose to hide that to survive what was coming. The company made a move that few people noticed at the time. It bought one of the largest processed food companies in the world, and it brought with it everything it knew about addiction. The same teams that had spent decades studying how the human brain responds to nicotine began studying how it responds to sugar, fat, and salt. The same methods, the same logic, the same goal: find the exact point at which the consumer loses control, and make sure every product stayed permanently at that point. Internal documents from that company recorded what their own scientists discovered. Ultra-processed foods activate the dopaminergic system at a speed comparable, in some cases superior, to controlled chemical substances. They knew, not as an unfortunate side effect, not as a late discovery. They knew before you bought it, before you opened the package, before you ever asked yourself why you couldn't stop. And the answer they had, they kept it. In fact, they buried it. What very few people know is that the boy from Brooklyn ended up at the center of a lawsuit that terrified the entire food industry. It was the first lawsuit in American history to use the word addiction to describe ultra-processed foods. The same legal argument that years earlier had forced the tobacco industry into the largest legal settlement in United States history. $246 billion. The judge who received the case was so intrigued by the theory that he spent weeks personally studying whether food could be legally classified as an addictive substance. The food industry watched every move of that case in complete silence. Now you know why. What you just understood changes the question. It's no longer why don't I have willpower? It's who designed this system and exactly what did they build? Because your brain wasn't hacked by accident. It was hacked by design, by people who studied every detail of your reward system and spent decades perfecting products to make sure the stopping point never came. And the only thing that starts to change this game is exactly what you just did. Understand the mechanism. A brain that knows the trap is capable of making the right choices. If this video made sense to you, share it with someone who still thinks the problem is theirs. See you!